and welcome to our exclusive MBA Masterclass, Unlocking the Secrets of Leadership. My name is Manuela Picariello. I'm a senior lecturer in sustainability in the Department of People and Organization from Bournemouth University Business School. And I'm honored to be your host today alongside our five brilliant students, Cheyenne, Matei, Nick, Rhea, and Tom. Leadership is a key skill in today's global job market, and who better to guide us than someone who has thrived at the highest level of professional sport? Today, we are thrilled to welcome our special guest, Mery Andrade, assistant coach for the Toronto Raptors. Mery brings a wealth of experience from both her playing and coaching careers from Portugal to the United States via Italy, and she's here to share her invaluable insight on leadership, resilience, and career growth. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mery Andrade.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We are.
Manu, when you started talking, I was like, who's she's talking about?
It's you.
Who was this old person she's talking about? You can keep going. And I was like, what? Yeah. First of all, I wanna thank you guys for having me. It's always good to give back and experience like this. I see it as my opportunity to give back to young aspiring professionals. And not long ago, I like to say not long ago because I don't want to say my age. I was in your shoes in some kind of capacity, and now in some rooms, I am you. You know, so I hope I can be of help if you have questions while I talk. The reason why I accept doing this today is because Manu told me that this would be a conversation. So I didn't have to
Yes.
come here and just talk, talk, talk. So if you have questions, the more we make this a conversation, I think the smoother
Yeah.
it's going to go. And I think we're going to take more out of this experience. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. Absolutely. So I think we're gonna start a little bit immediately, kind of like with some question. So I will start, and then the students will also take the lead. So can you tell us a little about your leadership journey and how your experiences in basketball shaped your career?
okay. So my leadership journey, that's funny because when you go through life, you never think that everything counts and everything is the building up for whatever you want to do later, right? So by talking about my journey, I have to tell a little bit my story. I'm going to try to speed it up. But so I am from
No,
Portugal.
please tell us the good stories. Don't worry, we're here for you.
So I was born in Cape Verde, but moved to Portugal when I was 4. So my journey started in Portugal. And already there, you see contrasting culture. Cape Verde used to be a Portuguese colony, but we still have different culture, different values. So it was the adjusting to that. I was in Portugal until my high school. I started playing just basketball. I was an athlete before I was a basketball player. So I decide basketball is what I want to do at late 14. And 3 months later, I was joining the national team. And that was what opened my eyes to what basketball could be. Um, Played for the national team, like I said, turning 15, always with older uh, um, levels. At 16, I was already with the senior national team, and
Wow.
and that is important because I think that shaped me uh, in terms of being a leader. Um, I'll get back to that in a little bit. Um, then when I finished high school, went to US, University of Old Dominion, ODU, Old Dominion University, did college for 4 years. And then in my second year, um, they created the WNBA. So
Yeah.
That was the first time because the plan was I'm gonna become a doctor, but let me do this basketball thing for a second. After I graduate, I'm gonna go back to Portugal, become a pediatrician, and life is I figured it out, right? I have a
Meanwhile,
plan.
life happened.
Yes. Then basketball happened. So in 97, they created the WNBA. And I was like, wow, I kind of like this, like what? I'm going to get paid to play basketball like for the rest of my life. That's so cool. So I was more intentional about it. And then in 99, I get drafted to the Cleveland Rockers, to the WNBA. And the WNBA just works during the summers. So I have to find ways of still stay in shape and develop and grow. Um, I chose Italy, and that was one of my best decisions ever. Love the food, love the people. Basketball was great. Ended up playing professional for 16 years, and then um, and while I played, I was always put in situations of, you know, you're gonna coach. I was like, no, because I was fighting the coach mentality because that means that
Of
I have to
course,
think about the end of my career. And they're
of
like, Mary,
course.
you are the leader on the court. You're the coach on the court, so it's a natural destiny for you. One year I got the opportunity to coach under 14. I went back 1 year to Portugal because um, 13 years into my career, I realized that I left Portugal so early that I
Of
didn't win it.
course.
So I went back. I said, okay, I want to win everything, and then I go back to Italy. That's what I did. And that year, my coach is one of the guys that had one of the people that had most influence in my life and career. My coach, José Leite, the one that recruited me to the national team at a young age. It again challenged me. Do you think you can coach an under 14 team? I was like, do you think? Because he knows me. He knows like if you put everything in competition, every challenge is like an opportunity for me. So I said, do you think? No, I am sure. I don't know if they can be coached by me. And then first 2 weeks, I'm not gonna lie, the girls were a little bit shook, but after that, it was a great experience. And I told them that every time that people ask me, why do you coach? I definitely gonna mention them and give a shout out to them because they make that experience so enjoyable. And I was like, yes, I was made for this.
Yeah,
Then
that's awesome.
in 2015, for the second time, I got offered an opportunity to be an assistant coach at the university. My first one was in 2010 with my alma mater, Old Dominion. But I tore my ACL and I didn't want my career to
Mm.
finish with an injury. So I decided to keep playing. Then after 5 years, the second call came from University of San Diego with a former coach of mine, Cindy Fisher. And she asked me if I wanted to come and be responsible for international recruiting. And I said yes. So that's when I started playing. And then that was when my second facet of being connected to basketball started. I coached at University of San Diego for 4 years until 2019. 2019, I decided I wanted to move on for
Hmm.
challenges, and that's when I heard about the ACP program, that is an NBA assistant coach program. I was part of that. Great experience, opened a totally different vision of what sports is at a high level. Um, at a combine, I got invited to join the Pelicans staff on the G League side and stayed there for 40 years. And last year, Toronto Raptors. Last year, I did summer league with Boston, and then after summer league, Toronto Raptors invited me to join the crew, and I said yes.
Wow.
It has been an amazing experience and so much learning and sharing and creating that camaraderie that I had when I played, and I think that's why I played for so long.
That's truly inspiring. I think that from your story, like it's really a dynamic journey because each experience is kind of probably added something, a new layer or a new things to learn. So on that note, how would you describe your leadership style and because you have so many changes, how it has evolved over time.
It when you see, like, I had the opportunity to see everybody. I should start by saying this. Everybody's path, like, we have a staff of 10 coaches, and we all had different, we are at the same place, but we all have different paths. So my path, it was former player, former international player, coming from Africa. So it's like all different, and you see things in, like, with different lenses while you were.
Yes.
Um, but one thing that that creates to my, and still creates to my leadership style, is the ability of connecting with your players, right? And um, how authentic you are with them. So every player
Yeah.
is different. And I think this also transfers to any kind of business that you might want to do, right? You guys are doing
Yeah.
sports management. You're going to be dealing with a lot of people,
Yeah.
with um, front office, agents, like, all is a really big connecting the dots when you do something like that.
Yeah.
So to me, is how authentic and how much can you adapt to who you have in front of you,
Yeah.
right? So it should be
Yeah.
tailored to the person in front of you. Because he work with John, it doesn't mean that it's going to work with Mark. It doesn't mean that it's going to work with Mary. It doesn't mean.
Yeah.
So having in consideration who you have in front of you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's
Tailor that to them. Then the other thing that I could say that influences my leadership style is, like you said, I was here and then I was there, and then so always and everywhere I go, and every group of people that I have um, the chance to work with, I know I'm growing. So that
yeah.
growth mentality of evolving, of getting something from every experience. And sometimes it's easier if all the experience are positive, that's for sure.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
finding that silver line, finding that ability of, from any experience, you can always learn something. And
Yeah.
most likely, you're going to learn more from the not so positive experience.
Yeah, it's true. And actually, on that, it's very interesting because in the past 2 weeks, I taught in about authentic leadership, right? And it's in research. That's what comes. It's coming up all over, like as a new type of leadership style, where you
Mhm.
want to kind of like connect with people and be genuine, and that's kind of like helps you kind of like lead from a good place. Those are very interesting, like insights on personal growth, and set kind of like a powerful tone for our conversation. Now, if you don't mind, let's shift our focus to the challenges, because you talked about failure, right? How you not the negative. So how you adjust and grow in such a competitive industry. In this case, I'm going to pass the ball to Nick that has a question for you.
Hi, Mary.
Uh,
Obviously, as you touched on before we started, the NBA is obviously known for its intensity and fast pace. And having also played and coached in Europe, how does it compare to how does the pace and pressure of the NBA compare to working in Europe?
um, different styles, yes, but at the end of the day, it's basketball, right? So I think the NBA is a lot of, you have to be able to embrace change, because it's like you said, it's so fast that things are always happening, right? The game changes, the technology changes. So when I transition from player to coach, sometimes people say, okay, you were a great player, you were super talented, so you're going to be a great coach. That's not necessarily true. Um, it helps. It helps. Like, I played for so many years that my body went through a lot of the situations that I still see when I coach, right? But with the NBA, that's a layer of technology and analytics that for me it was different, right? So the way you break down the games, the way like in a week we play 4 games, like in Europe you play 2. So in a week you have to get all this data and figure it out what is important for that game, because you have to be able to adapt to different styles of the teams, the how they play, also how they're going to guard you, and because it's an 82 season game, that's the minimum. Because if you play to the playoffs, you add another 15. So every game you might not have the same players, so that mental flexibility of adjusting from one game to another, um, adjusting to back-to-backs, injuries. Our team, and I think there's a very cool thing that we have going on in our way, is the communication among everyone. So we communicate with medical, we communicate um, with our psychologists, we communicate with the front office, like everybody working together to get to a to a common goal. Uh, Sometimes it's not easy, right? Because sometimes I want to play it, and then the medical comes and be like, "Hey, he can't go." So you have to trust that whatever the decisions are is for the good of the team. I think as a player in Europe, I found teams that was hard to stick to. Sometimes it was not about the player, it was more about winners and losses. I'm not saying that the NBA is not that, it is, but you have to have a bigger picture. It might not be about that game, but down the road, because our season is so long. Like a regular season in Europe might be 40 games, and here is like double of that. So having that mental capacity, um, embracing changes, I think that is what keeps the NBA so fast paced, like you said.
Yeah.
And obviously, as you touched on with certain players getting injuries and teams changing, how do you keep the team culture so everyone's ready to be sort of called upon when needed? And is there any sort of methods that you'd use or?
Uh, because the NBA is a world um, sport, and we have players from all over the world in our staff and our team, especially. I think we are the most diverse team in the league. Um, the main thing is the relationships we create with each other, right? Because that has to be the base for everything. Uh,
Yeah.
Relationships create on trust and respect, especially in our days. We know how the world is getting all crazy. And for us to be together for so long, for a long season, to create a winning culture, a winning mentality, we have to respect each other. We have to trust that everything we're doing is for the good of the team. It has to be a team um, effort. It cannot be individual, because basketball, first of all, is a sport, a team sport. But also, and this going back to when I played, when I understand why things are getting uh, done or being asked of me, if I understand why, it's a lot easier. It goes a lot smoother.
Yeah.
So one other coach that had a great influence in my career was Mirko Diamante from Italy. Um, we had conversations, and having conversations, communicating is very important, because you get to know people outside of a stressful situation. So when you
Yeah.
find yourselves in a stressful situation, now you don't second guess. So because
Mm-hmm.
I knew Mirko outside of the court, during the games, you don't have that much time. He asked me something, even if I don't agree at the moment. If he asks, Mary, run against that wall, I'm not gonna ask him, hey, Mirko, why you want me to do that? That's stupid. Why? That's a lot of wasting time in a game. The only thing I would ask him was like, how hard you want me to go? How hard you want me to crush that wall? Because I knew from behind the scenes there was a relationship that we created, trust and respect, that he was going to do the best for the team at that moment.
Yeah.
Uh, But for that, like I said, you have to communicate, you have to listen. You also have to be aware of the background culture, because all the cultures are different from Europe. And even in Europe, we call Europe, and
Yes.
we're not saying US, right? It's not a country. Europe is like different countries, and every different country has their own culture, values, and to be able to put all these people together, you have to be aware of that and find a common balance between all that, because you want people that are from different countries to feel that they are involved, they are part of what we are trying to build.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mary and Nick, for shedding light on adaptability, growth, the role of culture, because again, you have been successful everywhere in many countries, and thank you for explaining that, the importance of relating to others and knowing from where they come from, how they approach things differently. So let's now delve into the core qualities that define exceptional leadership. And I pass the ball to Matej now.
Yeah, I hope you all can hear me. I hope it's all good.
Yes.
So, Mary, as a fellow coach myself, just want to ask you what some valuable leadership lessons you learned from managers you've been working with or your previous coaches. So, if you can give a bit more insight into that.
I would say the first one is facing every challenge and adversity as an opportunity to grow, because that already sets up the room for having an open mentality to whatever will come your way. I had I had both experience in leadership, and sometimes what is very important is through the experience you have the ability to choose what you're gonna, okay, this is the kind of leader I want to be, or this is what I don't want to do as a leader, right? So sometimes it's good to know what you want, but it's more important to know what you don't want, right? So one of the things that I learned is I learned that leadership is more about serving than controlling. Okay? So being a leader is not telling people what to do, in my opinion. Of course, everything I say is is I can tell you what to do, but I'm not preparing you. That's the difference between being a boss and being a leader. A boss, I tell you what to do. A leader, I put you in situations so you learn. So when I'm not there, you are inspired to do it. You don't need to be, I don't need to be always there. Do this, do that. No, I'm going to empower you to do what needs to be done without me have to tell you to do it. Make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that ability to empower people around you, because when you empower people around you, that you give them an opportunity to grow, and at the same time, because people around you are different from you, and you are give them that push for them to be themselves, they're gonna do the reverse. They're gonna make you better because they might tap something that you never thought about, and now you also learning from them.
That's
all right.
That's brilliant. Thank you for the insight. That sounds pretty good. My note down my notebook, just my mottos now. Would you say there is some underrated qualities in leadership qualities like that would take from like a good average coach, so me, to like someone a lot better, like some top end coaches?
It's a good one. I think one of the qualities that is underestimated in a leader is the empathy,
Yeah.
Because like I said, people often mistaken being a boss and being a leader. And boss, I want to tell you what to do, and it doesn't matter what. And when you are a leader, and that goes also with the emotional part of things, right? The emotional intelligence is like how you're going to evaluate a situation and have people be able to do what they're supposed to do effectively, right?
Mm.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
if you are empathic, it doesn't mean that you are soft. And sometimes
Mm.
people mistaken this. I can be
Yeah.
empathic with one of my players. Okay. Um, story time. Every year in the league, there is 65 players leaving the league because there is 65 players coming back. So that is very stressful. I was a player. I understand that. Going as a coach is a total different perspective. So that is the summers can be very stressful, especially if you are a free agent. So you have to have that in consideration when you ask players, you have to come and work with us. And what? Yes, but he's also thinking what's coming next. Am I coming just to work with you, or can I also go work with another team and show them what I can do? And sometimes I have to understand that. I cannot take that as personal, that, oh, he told us no, so we're not going to look at him anymore. The other time, very difficult for players is trade deadlines. Anyone can get traded. Luca thought that he was saved, right? And then
Yeah.
bomb is thrown out there, and everybody go crazy. It was like, oh my God, did it?
I'm one of them.
Did you cry? Did you cry? Because a lot of
Yes,
people cry.
I did. I'm a
So
Dallas
that was like,
Mavericks fan.
that was the last bomb thrown out there. And,
Yeah.
so you have to understand. So when we have games during that period, is a roller coaster of emotions.
Mm.
And we have to be empathic. It doesn't mean that said, oh, you suck. That's the excuse. That is not an excuse. But they're going to give you, maybe you're going to have extra conversations before the game in preparation to be like, hey, everything's going to be good, just go out there, be yourself, and everything gonna fell in place. Just be conscious of that to help the player in his mental stage to be able to perform. So
Yeah.
being impacting in those kind of situations, I think, is gonna set you apart from the average coach, because a lot of the coaches, especially like the old school coaches, and I have nothing against old school coaches, but the the mentality, the older mentality is, I had coaches telling me this worked 20 years ago, so it's gonna
Yeah.
work. If it doesn't work, it's because you guys are not capable, because you guys are dumb. That's not
Mm.
the case. People are different now. There's a
Yeah.
lot of different things going on in the world, and you have to be conscious of that. So being empathic, I think, brings you to what I said earlier today, to the person in front of you, and how you're going to be able to bring out the best of that person to help the team, to help him, and to help everyone, the organization.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Oh, get one more. Nice. Um,
Yes.
so speaking of your empathy and being kind of like emotionally intelligent towards the players, can you give us like story slash a bit of background when you had to like make a tough call to the player or maybe staff or anything along those lines?
Um, Basically, we always have tough calls. Is a daily thing, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that the thing what helps, and I was like that as a player too. That's one of the things that I transferred to coaching, is the process, right? Like, be- if it is I do that with pretty much every decision, but especially if it's a tough decision, is what is the process? Is I'm gonna gather the facts. I'm gonna, I do a list. I remember I had um, to stop playing and start coaching. A list, pros and cons. So you put all
Mm.
the data together. Uh, Sometimes it's too much for you to get it done, like to have all different sides. So
Mm.
it's always good when you have mentors. I remember
Mm.
calling
Yeah.
coaches that coached me, coaches that former players they are coaching. Um, so seeking for that mentorship. Um, but at the end of the day, you have to trust your instincts to be
Mm.
able to take that tough decision, right? And
Yeah.
relating to players sometimes is, I had players that they got waived, and I have to go talk to them after that. What is extremely hard because, like I said, you
Yeah.
create a relationship and we work
Mm.
into this goal and it doesn't work. Like
Mm.
team needs something,
Yeah.
so the front office is
Mm.
bringing someone, and having that conversation is not easy. But like again, because we created a good relationship, sitting down and help them walk through the steps that are coming. This is
Mm.
not the end. This is part of your process. So this
Mm.
can open doors with this, with that, with like the way you communicate with them when those difficult uh, decisions are made, I think is very important because
Yeah.
I still like I sometimes when I see the scores and I see the former player that I work with, I was their player development or coach, uh does good, I text, and
Yeah.
it's lovely
Yeah.
when they text back, and in that moment we get a little, even 5 minutes conversation. But it was not just because, hey, we don't need you anymore, go your way, we
Yeah.
go our way. It
Mm.
Yeah.
shouldn't be like that. I was
Yeah.
blessed that when I play it was not like that. Like now if I go to Italy, i
Mm.
I see everyone, former teams that I played against, because there was a relationship behind, but
Yeah.
it's important to go to the process and not taking tough decisions lightly because you're just thinking about what is in front of you now. Because if he's a good player, he might not fit your program on your organization now, but you never know. He's gonna get so good and he's gonna grow, and you might want him back. So you don't want to break those bridges, especially
Mm.
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
guys. Sports
Yeah.
management is something that
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I mean, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mate. This insights really resonate to me as well. Like as I'm teaching organizational leadership, you were talking about all these things about you want to be a leader and not you don't want to control, you don't want to micromanage. And actually, when we talk about toxic leaders, micromanaging comes first. And the other thing that you were saying about before, we were used to kind of like, no, it's like it's just this way, you cannot do it differently, go through the pain of doing this. Instead now it's about, let's understand about the person because we want to motivate them, and whether it is a team or is an organization, doesn't matter. I mean, we are having our organizational leadership lecture here, and I'm sure that my students will like you more, Mary. But now let's turn our focus to the evolving role of women in leadership within the sport world. And I'm passing the ball to Ria.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah.
Women are increasingly stepping into leadership roles in sports. How do you think this growing presence is shaping the culture of the NBA?
So the NBA has a lot of representation from all different paths of life, right? Like all different groups of life. Like you have coaches from Europe, you have coaches from Africa, you have and that gives you all different perspective, right? Um, Being a woman, you never nothing taking from you guys, but we just see things different. Um, and different, it doesn't mean better or worse. It's just different. And being able to embrace that difference, I think, makes an organization and makes a team better, because it's important that everybody speaks the same language, but we know that we learn differently, right? So you have people that learn better with visual, you have people that learn better by doing, you learn people that learn better, but they just need like to hear it and they're able to do it. And having a woman is adding to that diversity of how you're going to be able to communicate effectively with who do you have in front of you, you know? So I echo what my head coach says. I understand the whys. I and then my job is to communicate our vision for a buy-in of the group of the players and
Yeah.
even the organization, so everybody can work at the same towards the same goal. Um, like I said, I think uh, having women um, in the NBA opens a lot of doors of for us women to see representation, and representation is important. You know, like you allowed people to tap that um, myth that, oh, NBA is a man's sport. It's not. If you are good, you are good. If you put the work in, you put the work in. It doesn't matter, you know. So um, I I'm not gonna lie. If you had asked me 10 years ago, um, do you want to coach in the NBA? Yes, I want to, but that's not possible, you know?
Mm,
So I still put the work in, but I put the work in for myself because I love what I do. But it wasn't because of the NBA, because we didn't see anyone. And then when Becky comes to the league
yeah,
and Jenny comes to the league, now I'm like, okay, it's possible, you know? So
yeah,
now I am reaching out, I am asking questions, I'm asking feedback, I'm doing networking because I want to know more about this league. I want to
yeah,
know more about uh, how it takes. And I think it's very important when you are on the other end and you are the person that people are seeking for advice and for feedback, to be honest, to be authentic. Because when people come to me and they're like, oh, you coaching in the NBA or you played in the WNBA, and I think they expect me to say, oh yes, everything is great, everything is beautiful, everything. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that's not the reality. There is an amount of work that you put behind that is tremendous. You know, is sleepless nights, is
mm,
critical thinking, is um, thinking outside of the box, is sacrificing your time with with family and friends, and all that comes into play. And
yeah,
it's because of that that it makes it so special. Because you know, like if everything is easy, you're like, oh, okay. But when everything is like things are getting harder and you work so hard to get it, the satisfaction is even better.
mm,
So so yes, that's what I try to do when people ask me about women in, you know, a lot of hard work. You have to sometimes in some rooms you have to do extra work to
mm,
have the same attention that a normal male coach. Um, one thing that so during the pandemic, I was story time. During the pandemic,
yes,
I was fortunate to do a webinar just like this, but it was women's in sports. So not just NBA, NFL, hockey, baseball, all around professional sports. And it was so good. It was so good because for the first time, I felt that I was being seen. I was things that I felt it was not just in my head. So
mm,
that was the first time I heard about the imposter syndrome. Do you guys know what the
mm.
imposter syndrome is? Yes.
I know. What about you guys? Do you know? Good. And they're prepared.
See, I didn't know. So one of the speakers is telling, you know, like sometimes we got in rooms and we are the only female voice and all the attention is in you. And this is a women trait that we put pressure on ourselves. I think guys are a little bit
Yeah,
more easygoing, but we do that. That's genetic. There's nothing we can do about it. We can learn how to manage that, right? But so I learned that all those feelings that sometimes in a situation like this, you ask me to come to talk to people, and I was like, oh my God, if I say the wrong thing, oh, they're gonna think that I don't know anything. Oh my God, all this stress, we do that a lot,
yeah,
especially just in a in a room full of men. And then when we hear the male speaking, and you're like, oh, I know that. Oh, this is that's that's easy. Then we realize like it's almost like you need validation for your thoughts when it comes for them. And because it was my impact, it was after my first year in the league, I had to go through that. And I listening to that webinar opened my eyes. I said, okay, first of all, I'm not the only person that thinks that. I'm not the only woman that feels that. And that helps because I feel that I have representations from women that are successful, from women that have accomplished a lot. They are great leaders in the community, in sports. Um, and I think that helps me. Okay, so how I'm going to manage my feelings, how I'm going to manage my emotions when that happens, because it will happen. And if it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
something is wrong. Because you can be confident, but there is always, and you can be confident but not cocky. Because I'm
Yeah.
confident, I know my means, but I always have those butterflies, before something important is about to happen, and that's gonna allow me to prepare for that. Because if I'm not confident but I'm cocky, I come to places and to to rooms where I'm not prepared, and then people be like, see, she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So it helps seeing representation, it helps being prepared. It's okay to have those mixed feelings when you are a woman in a men's environment. So
Cool, thank you. Looking forward, what impact do you hope to have on future female coaches in the industry?
can you repeat that, please?
Looking forward, what impact do you hope to have on future female coaches in the industry?
First, I hope to be what the former female coaches were to me, a mentor. And I'm
Mhm.
always scheduling, allowing. I'm always open to do things like this. I want to
That's
open.
awesome.
I want to pave the way for young uh, young people like you guys to follow your dreams. And if your dreams is in basketball, great. And like I said, leadership, you can take a lot from sports and apply everywhere you go. So uh, use me as a resource if you want. I'm always open to that. And um, and also show a representation as visibility. If you see it, you can achieve it. So because if
Mhm.
it's close, is that grabs. So if I see a woman being a president, now I was like, okay, I want to do
I
that.
can do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's gonna be difficult. It's not gonna be hard, but if you don't see it, it's harder. Like I'm not saying it's impossible because everything is possible, but is I'm very visual. I have to see it. When I see it, I was like, okay, this is what I want, how I'm going to go about it. It's not going to be in a straight line. It's going to go here, 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 here. The important thing is how I'm going to get there. And while I get there, how I'm going to grow through that
Yeah.
position. So uh, if I can be of help in that growth path, uh, that's all I aspire to do.
That That's awesome, Mary, and thank you, Rhea, for that was really an empowering discussion, and the imposter syndrome and everything that you described, Mary. And it still can happen in all fields, like also in academia it happens, and we have the same conversation for female academics, and it is important to see other people going through the path and kind of like empowering each other. So that's awesome. So I think that next, if you don't mind, we'll explore the importance. You talked already about that, but maybe we go a little bit more in depth on the importance of relationship and emotional intelligence in sport leadership. And I'm gonna pass the ball to Shay.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Shay.
So the first question we have for you is, so you previously discussed how basketball in particular is very team oriented. So we have how important is emotional intelligence in professional sports and how that impacts leadership and team dynamics.
So, like I said, and I touched a little bit on it with emotional intelligence in a team. Um, a team is not made of machines, right? Until not long ago, everything was like, oh, IQ, 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 right? But there is a lot of analytic thinking, right? Sometimes things on
Yeah.
paper look great, and then you put the human part of it, and it doesn't go as smooth, right? Having that, I think both together are great because you still have to have analytic thinking, like we talked about before, like game preparation. This is the plan. Why we doing this? Because this is where we can have more success. And then adding to the component of um, the emotional part of the game because we're dealing with people. When you take in consideration the emotional part of things, you are working towards creating trust and respect among the group because you're taking that person's emotion and you are validating that is not wrong or right
Yeah.
emotion. Is just if it's a negative emotion, how can we work around it to turn it into positive, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
people say being anxious or excited. That's a fine line, right? I'm going to validate what you're feeling, but instead of seeing on the negative side, how I'm going to turn that to the positive side and being, I'm not anxious, I'm excited, and how I'm going to turn that excitement to performance. If I'm excited, put it on the floor. To me,
Okay.
you guys, I'm an old fart, so I played a long time ago. But if you ask the way I played, it was with energy, right? And I don't remember one game, even when I was sick, the thing that I bring day in and day out was that energy. And a lot of times that energy is to cover from the butterflies, from playing championships, from playing against the best team in the EuroLeague, playing against an opponent that is the best offensive player, because I was a very defensive player. So he's playing against the best offensive player in the world, in the league, in Europe. So to me, it was, if you ask me, I wouldn't say I'm afraid or I am anxious. I will tell you I'm excited because that's what I want my mind to be. A lot of things that we think, we are what we think. So one thing is 100% sure. You are what you think. You think positive, you're going to do positive, you're going to be positive. You think negative, you're going to be negative, you're going to do negative. So to me, it was the mindset of, okay, I'm not going to lie, I have those butterflies, but you know what? That is just because I'm excited. I cannot wait for the game. And yes, I'm not going to be perfect in understanding that, but having that capacity of understanding what the emotional part of the game of the business is and how I'm going to turn that in an effective result for my organization, for my team, for myself. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And
So you kind of
sometimes
use
that is not an excuse to not keep players accountable, as if a player is messing up, I'm not gonna say, oh, it's because he's nervous. It's like, no. So you are nervous? Okay. So how I'm gonna bring you to down to earth to what we need to do, right? We had practice. That's why it's important the way you practice, because the way you practice is rewiring your brain to when your body feels in a specific situations. You have done it 1,000 times until you could not get it wrong. So now it doesn't feel as stressful. So
Yeah.
by understanding the emotional part, I'm going to help him perform and be effective.
Yeah. So you kind of use emotional validation to build trust, build rapport, and kind of convert that into results via performance.
Fist bump.
That's a highlight.
Just making sure I got it. Yeah. Thank you so much. So our next question that we have is earlier with Nick, I believe you touched on empathy and how that was an underrated quality that is important to have, and that how it can sometimes be viewed as soft, but it really isn't. How do you balance being authoritative while also showing empathy, especially when working with diverse individuals?
It goes back to accountability.
Mm,
You know, like I said, I'm going to be empathic, but I'm not going to give you excuses, right? So I
yeah,
can understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I'm going to say, okay, I see this, but I'm still going to need you to be about the team. For example, I think one of the things that is very, very important in any organization, in any team, is the beginning of the year being as transparent and clear as possible, right? So with my
yes,
team, we call it pillars. We have pillars for offense and we have pillars for defense. And we will explain every single pillar and there's always room for communication, for discussion. So this is what we saw as coaches, that if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things on offense, 6 things on defense, we are going to be successful. So everybody's accountable to that. Every game is different. Every game presents different kind of problem solving. But how can we stick to our principles the best way we can? How can we be consistent of doing what we know to work for us, right? So that goes with being empathic, but at the same time creating that trust that I understand when you come from, but I'm still going to ask you things that sometimes is going to put you in an uncomfortable situation, but that uncomfortable situations will lead for you to grow, and your growing is leading for the team to get better and for the team to get the results that we set at the beginning of the year. And I think that is
yeah,
not just in sports, I think is organizational too, if you transfer that to the other side.
yeah. So leaving your comfort zone and how that kind of pushes not only individuals but the team as well.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You can sue me. Man, let me say,
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of the contest, your
Yeah.
last name is Tavares.
Yeah,
Where are you from?
I'm from Bermuda, but my dad's Portuguese.
Like, I'll be talking and she be resuming right there.
Yeah.
This connection.
Yeah, so we're bringing the good stuff here. Amazing. I think this is all wonderful insights, and it's good. It's good as we approach the final segment of our discussion, but we're gonna have other question. I want now to focus on, because here we have young people, right? And they have a career to build. There are like, we have been in their spot, and kind of like understanding career growth and advice for those just starting out. So I'm gonna pass the ball to Tom now.
Hi, Mary. So, like most of us on this panel and in the audience watching will be at the beginning of their professional journeys. So, what I kind of wanted to ask was like, what's the best leadership advice you've ever received, and how has it influenced your career from the beginning, maybe to the end now?
The end. I
Not
should
the end, not the end. As in like
What are
the
you
present.
doing, Tom?
No. That's my fault.
I'm
I didn't
messing
mean it
with
like
you.
that.
I got you.
No, Tom.
I knew I was going to get one of you. You just were the one selected. Good job.
Nah, you didn't get me.
Good job, Tom.
Not like that. Not like that.
All right. So the best advice I ever got was be the leader you wish you had. Okay.
That's interesting.
So remember when I told you that when I first started playing, I was very young and I always play with people older, right? So I was fortunate enough to had great examples. So I was 16 and I was playing with players that were like 20, 22. And sometimes in that age, there's a big difference. You know, some of the players are already working, some of the players are going to university. I was still in high school, just got to high school or whatever. And but those players always treat me right. Always saw me for who I was and not, oh, because I suffer, I'm gonna make you suffer. I didn't have
Yeah.
players like that, right? So I learned, oh, this is what leadership should look like. So when
Yeah.
I became the oldest, so that's what because I learned that way. And I was like, oh, I like this. And I think like I told you before, I was an athlete. I was not a basketball player. I think this also helped me to fall in love with the game. It's not, they always kept me accountable for what had to be done, but at the right way. The way they communicated with me, uh, the way they took time out of their day and what they were doing to be with someone that was younger. You don't see that a lot, like that mentorship, you know. So when I had that advice, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, I want to be that leader that I wish I had, because I had that when growing up, and I think that's why my career ended up going through the path it did, to still stay connected to the game.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. And now, so like for young professionals who are aspiring to want to be in a leadership or a teamwork driven role, so maybe like myself, because I want to be in basketball in the future, what's your top piece of advice for someone like that?
I think mastering the fundamental skills of, I don't know if it's leadership or if it's life, you know, because at the end of the day, we can call it whatever we want and be like all fancy with the words, but I think is leadership is what happens to you in life that
Yeah.
allows you to be effective and successful, right? So I think those, first of all, is recognizing what those fundamentals are. Uh, for me, I have four, three, four that I stick by. And
Yeah.
first one, like the top of it, is communication. One of the coaches, I was listening to another uh, webinar, clinic, whatever, during the pandemic. I had a lot of time during the pandemic to do all this. And one of the things that I learned and I stole was communication eliminates confusion, right? The more communication that you have and you do, the less confusion is around you. So for a leader, you have to be able to communicate and communicate efficiently, not telling people what to do, but how to empower them and inspire them. Um, by doing that, you contributing to their confidence, right? Uh, I think as a young, especially as a young professional, having that confidence, that unconscious confidence is gonna make you feel that you can move mountains. And if you don't have that when you are young, let me tell you, you're not gonna have it when you old. So
Yeah.
guys, let's go out there and move mountains.
Yeah.
And
Let's go. I got it. Yeah.
because you have time to make mistakes. But
Yeah.
guess what? Making a mistake is not a negative thing. We're going back
Yeah.
turning a thing that we might think is not positive, turn it into a
Mm.
positive thing. Make mistakes. What is a mistake? What is a failure? It's
Yeah.
nothing more than giving you data to what you need to work on,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right?
You learn more from mistakes than you do
Most
positives.
likely.
Yeah.
Now, do I like to make mistakes?
Oh, definitely.
No.
Exactly.
So if I don't like to make mistakes, what do? I prepare myself, right?
Mm.
I prepare myself. When I prepare myself, I feel comfortable about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes it things change and it might turn into a mistake. But now I have data to what has to be like next. We in basketball we say next play mentality.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't dwell on that mistake. I don't dwell in the past.
Yeah.
I dwell as in the present, what I'm gonna do to make my future better. Right?
Yes.
We're working
Yeah.
on that confidence. And another thing is you have to be able to work in a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think in nowadays it's super hard because everything is like we work with people, but we work through like PlayStation and Box and I don't know all those names.
Yeah.
That's how you know I'm old, but I'm gonna stick with PlayStation. Uh, but it's important to be able to relate with people around you, to be able to develop your teamwork abilities. Like we're gonna do this together. First of all, because it's more efficient. Second of all, because is you can cover more like different aspects of whatever you're doing instead of having to do it and then when you're done someone comes and gives you another perspective and you're
Yeah.
like oh we have to restart. No, like
Yeah.
being able to while in the process of doing getting feedbacks from different ways of seeing things. And the last one I would say that I take from my career and still and I'm not done with my career so I
I should see the
Hey.
keep
thing, Tom.
using it
Hey.
is
It's okay, Tom.
I misworded. I'm never gonna let that down. Am
That's good.
okay, Tom. That's okay, Tom. That's why we're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Is the resilience part, okay? That mentality of, hey, when things get hard, I'll find a way. I grew up thinking it doesn't have to look pretty as long as I get it done. I will do the pretty part
I?
after. I'm gonna find a way and then analyze it after. Okay, so I could have done this. Like in terms of wins and losses, it's like I always say, it doesn't have to look pretty. We're just gonna get those 2 points for the win, and then we
Yeah.
back to practice, go back to the board, and be like, okay, so we struggle with this. Next time we have to do this better, but it was good that we won.
Mm.
So those
That-
are the four things. It would be communication, confidence, teamwork, and resilience.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm taking notes, Mary. That's what I'm gonna say to my students in class tomorrow. And I will cite Andrade 2025. Um, so thank you, Mary, and thank you, Tom, because that advice will surely inspire us, our students, people that are listening to us and maybe are in a place where they are deciding what you want to do. And when you start, it's all about choices, path that you can take. But I think it's nice to have the perspective, especially for the younger generation, about it can, even if it didn't work out as you wanted, it's a learning experience and you can move to other things. So I think that is really good. So let's see now if so we are done with the question from us for the moment. Let's see if we can go with questions from the Q&A, or otherwise we go to Nick. You guys are gonna start the Q&A. I give you you're in charge.
If we give a bit of time for people to write in their questions, I'll
Yes.
start us off. I wanted to ask earlier. I think you said that you tore your ACL. Is that right? I wondered about obviously, I'm sure everyone on the panel and in the audience have also had injuries. Some probably worse than others. And obviously, ACL could be fairly sort of devastating. I mean, how do you sort of keep positive throughout that, and how do you sort of what's your mentality like during recovery?
That was So I was 35. So in one certain way, I was blessed that it happened like later in my career. On the other side, it was not so blessed because then everybody was like, "Oh, you done?" So, two things about me. There is no way you are going to tell me if I'm done or not. So it was a situation that it could have been avoided, but sometimes God works in mysterious ways, and maybe that's what he was supposed to do to happen because I had a bad knee and I really like summers. That's why I stopped playing the WNBA because I needed my summers to take care of my knee. But my national team forced me to play. I told them I was not ready, and they ended up getting hurt and had to do rehab. So it was a very vulnerable time in my career in life because I was a machine. Like I was very disciplined. I At this time I'm gonna wake up, at this time I'm gonna eat breakfast, at this time I'm gonna work out, at this time I'm gonna snack, at this time I'm gonna take a nap. Like my day, that thing, like Google, it looks so nice, like everything I do with colors. My day, it was like a Christmas tree. I have colors for everything I had to do. There was like no blank spots. It was perfect. And if I do all the right things, guess what? I'm never gonna get hurt. I always gonna win. I'm gonna be perfect. Not true. Not true. There is so many things in life that is out of your control. And there are so many things that are super hard in life. And the ability that you develop of dealing with tough situations that we talked before, right? Or the whole process. Uh, the ability of going through those things and react to them, that's when the growth comes. So for me, that was the first time I had a major injury, right? So I was super frustrated. I was super angry with the whole situations because I didn't have control. I had to play for the national team. So my rehab started with a lot of resistance. Like I would go, I was in the best center in Europe, in my opinion, in the world, one of the best centers in the world. It was Isokinetic in Bologna. I'm not doing publicity. That's just because that's
No. I
I'm telling
understand.
the story.
Yeah.
But I got there, and Antonio, my trainer, he'd be like, hey. And I like to joke around, but those first 2 weeks, they were hell. They were hell for them because I was, woo. So being vulnerable, being upset, and he tells me, do 2 sets of 10. I would do 10 or 15. Just because it's like, I am that person. I am that person that is going to do the extra. I am that person. I did not understand rest. Did not. That was not a concept for me. In this case, again, it was the analytic thinking. If he tells me to do 10, 2 times, but if I do 4 times 15, oh, definitely it's going to be better. No, I didn't take in consideration all that emotional part that I was going through, right? So it's important when you have, I admit that. And now when I talk to my players, because I went through that experience, and I have players that have played during the season, they've played like 1/3 of the game. So I know they are frustrated. And I'm like, look, you doing so good because when I was you, and now is that relationship between coach player that we developed the trust is relating with me. When I was you, my autonomy to be positive, a positive thinker, it was 2 days. You are doing this for months, and you keep working and you keep doing what you ask you, so you're doing great, right? So when you are in those situations, is at least in my experience, I was very selfish the first 2 weeks, and then the people around me keep being there for me, my trainers. Some of the athletes, soccer, not even basketball players, they were soccer players. Like they knew at a certain point in my rehab I would cry because they were trying to bend my knee, and they would be there of support. They wouldn't say anything because they knew I wouldn't talk, but they would have like tissue and they'd just slide the tissue. And all those little things made me open up a little bit. And guess what? When I open up and I let my emotions come out and recognize what I was going through emotionally, my rehab I took the rehab to another level. Like I start having more positive feedback from the trainer. Oh, look, like yesterday we were doing this, but today you're doing so good. So let's add. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to add. I wanted to be stronger. I wanted to recover fast. And but that just happened when I opened myself for that to happen. And that's when the emotional part comes into it. So if you go into a injury, a not so positive um, episode in your life, just being open to allow people to help you because you're not doing for yourself, you're doing for them. You're giving them an opportunity to be there for you. And I think that's
Yeah.
you not being selfish because the selfish thing is like, I'm going to do it. I don't need anyone. I do it. It's like, and
Yeah.
now I'm not saying I'm not, but I try to, you
You
know,
work on it.
yes. And that was because I went through that experience. So
That's
if you have people that had injuries or difficult situations, like,
that's
try to see things again with positive
yeah.
eyes and allow people to surround you with help and positive thinking.
That's
Brilliant.
awesome,
Thanks.
Mary. Thank you so much. And it's been really interesting to hear you briefly touch on a couple of inspiring leaders within basketball, right? Would you be able to speak more about who inspired you in basketball, sport, or in life in general?
Yes, I told you about those two. So José Leite was my first coach for the national team. I call him my Portuguese dad, and Mirko is my Italian dad. And I think people that inspire me, like I told you, like I everything to me is through stories, right? So every time I have an opportunity to listen to webinars, podcasts, being in rooms with people that have experiences. I remember in summer league so I do summer league. So last year, what was 2 years ago? Last year or 2 years ago, um, Coach K, the former coach from Duke, the GOAT in college,
Yes.
was there talking to some African coaches because we were doing Giants of Africa is an organization funded by my president Masayu, and so we had as a speaker Coach K, and just sitting there and observe, like being a sponge for every experience. Those experiences are experiences that I will never be able to go through, never, right? But I can go through him, and ask questions. And so I'm a big fan of Coach K. Did a lot of podcasts with Coach still in the league, Coach Popovich. I was work with uh, Mazula, and I had the chance to talk to him. Like it's a different perspective now because he's young and how he see things, and he's known by his short answers and how straightforward he speaks with the media. So like to me, just like putting all that together, and I'm not even gonna lie, like my coach that I have now in my team is Coach Darko, different backgrounds, all these paths, and I think everybody has a story that has to.
Yeah.
So if you have the ability to to be a sponge on everybody's stories and still what fits for you or what inspires you, I
Yeah.
think all those people can have influence in your career, in your leadership. And like I said, like to me every day when we have coaches meetings, uh we talk about medical, we talk about basketball, but we also talk about people. And sometimes it's Coach Darko, sometimes it's uh, any of the other coaches. And that's why it's so important to have diversity because you also talk about life. And I'm
Yes.
blessed to be part of such a wonderful group here. Like I actually I was a big locker room person when I play, and now I'm doing a job that I have that same feeling, that locker room feeling with the people I work at the moment.
That's awesome. Um, should we like see from the chat if we have something, and then we go to Cheyenne? Matei, are you gonna ask
Yeah,
next?
yeah, I'm happy to read out the chat. So
Yes.
Mary's asking, what setbacks have you faced in your coaching career, and how did you reset and move past it? So,
Um,
Let's see. I mean, it's not a setback, but they were like episodes. Like, for example, story time.
yes.
Uh, I go my first year. I go to at the time it was Erie Bayhawks. It was the G League for the Pelicans, and
Mhm.
so the way it works is we have the head coach and you have other coaches. At that time we had three coaches and the assistant coaches. So every assistant coach is we have players designated to every assistant coach, and then also scouts for the games. G League, you have 50 games, so we divide those
Wow.
50 games with three coaches. So my first scout, right? So my other two colleagues goes well, okay, and I'm like been working like 10 days working on the scout, and I was like, okay. So right before the day before that I have to present the scout, you would go to my living room and you had like all the scout papers. I have to see it, right? So I have like all the scout papers. Okay, first I'm going to talk about personnel. So I'm going to say this player goes left, this goes right, likes this, his percentage is this. Okay, next player, this player, da, da, da. Okay, pick and rolls, what they doing? DHOs, what they doing? And I'm good. I was like, okay, let's repeat it again. And I 3 times, 4 times. Like, okay, so if they ask me questions, so should I ask them questions? So I am like really into it. I'm creating that confidence, right? I am, wow, okay. 11 o'clock at night, 11 p.m. My phone rings and I was like, why is coach calling me? So I pick up the phone. Hi, Mary, what's up? I was like, hey, coach, how you doing? Good, good. It's like, oh, just wanted to tell you that our two-ways are not playing tomorrow. Now, let me get you. Oh, you, Tom? We here, Tom. We here. So, for who doesn't know what two ways are, so in the G League and in the NBA, you have a contract with the G League that if you are a two-way, you have a certain amount of numbers that you can play with the top team, right? So you play with the top team and you play with the G League. And the top team has an injury, they can call him. The top team wants to see him, they can call him. If they call him, and those two, before it was just two-ways, now it's three. But those two-ways are your best players, right?
Wow.
So you imagine, I don't know, Michael Jordan out of the team and another Scottie Pippen out of the team. They're the two best players. They're not going to play. Chicago Bulls going to look different, right? I'm talking about old school because I don't want to
Yes.
be in the moment right now, right? So I was like, what do you mean? I said, my first scout and our two players that don't play, that means that I have to, everything that I was preparing, I have to redo and rethink the game. And it was the rest of the night from 11 to 4 in the morning. Because now I'm trying to match up differently. I'm trying to come with different strategies. I'm trying. So it was the first time that I really have to do my mental flexibility adapting to the league. And you guess what? This is the league. This is the G League. This is the NBA. It's not said and done. Like in Europe, a player gets hurt in one game, but you have a week to recover. So it's like, hey,
Yeah.
come on, Doc, let's work your magic. And chances are that most likely they're gonna play. This was not an injury, but it's part of what we signed up
It
for.
happened.
For that, they're gonna move. So moving forward, the way I end up moving forward is okay, this is the plan, but I always write adjustments. If this
That's
happened,
awesome.
this is gonna happen. If this happened, this is gonna happen. So the preparation now is a little bit more deep from just like, okay, this is my plan. I'm gonna stick to the plan. Yeah, I'm gonna stick to the plan if I can. But if I don't, if I can, how I'm gonna keep being competitive, go out there and be effective. So that's
Awesome,
one of mine.
awesome. That's great, and thank you for the question, Henry, and Matei for reading the question. Now I pass the ball to Cheyenne.
Okay, so I think this may be one of our final questions as we're running low on time, but you've spoken about the coaches that inspired you, and I bet it means a lot that they've left such a meaningful impact on you. And you've also said how you're not done growing and being a leader. So my question is, what are your next steps to being closer to the leader you wish to be, to put it in your own words?
Continue learning.
Okay.
Continue learning. I think the game, in my case, like the game is changing, and I wanted to be able to be there for my players and for people around me. So I try to use every opportunity as a growing experience. And uh, sometimes they are easy, sometimes they are not, and sometimes I'm gonna get the answer right away, and sometimes I have to do a more research and more seeking more mentorship and seeking more feedback. But that's okay, because there is no negatives. There's no when you get a medicine and you go into the back, it's like, this is gonna cure your cold, but you're gonna have the second
Side effects.
effects could be heartburn, this and that. No, like continuing learning and evolving, it just has positive effects, and you're gonna get the chance to meet people, to change your way of thinking, and that to me that's the most important. Like to be uh, a leader that doesn't stay in her ways and is open to allow other people also to help her um, not to change, but to add to
Evolve.
what my values are. So
Yes.
as a leader, that's what I hope to do, and I hope to inspire young professionals like you guys, and like keep having these types of conversations um, and help. Yeah, I think leadership is a business of serving. So if I can be of service, hey, I'm doing something right, right?
Wow.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Um, this has been an incredible session. I didn't have doubt about it. A huge, huge thank you to you, Mary, because you shared your story in an authentic way, in the way that come across with useful tips, but also knowledge that we can take with us. A big thank you to the students that helped me with this event, and we're just adaptable to be ready. Mary, like you with the plan in at the last hour. Um, and thank you for to the people that have listened to us. We're gonna the session was recorded and will be shared via email. Stay connected, follow Coach Mery Andrade on Instagram. And Mary, thank you for posting about this event on your Instagram page. Bournemouth University and the business school are very lucky to be on your Instagram page. We'd love to hear your feedback from the people that listened. And again, Mary, we said, I told you, like, this was an inspiring masterclass. I had no doubt when I contacted you. And, it's a confirmation of that. Next time, we want you on campus.
Tom, start working on it, Tom.
I'm thinking right now.
Tom, you the one that said I'm almost done, so you
I
want me
know.
to be there before my career is
Don't think-
over. Come on, Tom.
Listen,
Let's go.
So stay on tune, because Mery Andrade is gonna come to Talbot campus. Mary, I wish you
Thank you so much for the invitation. You were right. It was a conversation. Every time, like I have time, I have the opportunity talk with such young, brilliant minds is a pleasure. And thank you for the invite to come to campus. And I'm not like some speakers that said, yes, 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 I will go, and they'll go. No, I'll show up.
I
And they'll
know.
like, knock,
Yeah,
knock, knock.
Mary
You
will
told me
show
to
up.
come.
Yeah,
So,
I'm telling you. That's why I'm inviting you, because I know you will be here.
I'm looking forward to it. You guys, please
Yes.
stay in touch. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure to get to know you guys, and you guys are super well prepared. If you prepare yourselves for the world out there the way you prepare for this interview, I have no doubt in my mind that you are going to be very successful.
Oh my God, Michael. Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank
So
you.
again, Mery, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Mery, we're gonna cheer for the end, like for the season for you, for Toronto Raptors, of course. Here now, Bournemouth University is Toronto Raptors fan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all.
All right, everyone.
Thank you all.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks, Mary. Thank you very much.
Bye.